Hey soccer friends, I just want to give a shout out to our partner, Team Player. They are changing the game on how you find the perfect soccer team for your player. Parents, this means no more endless social media scrolling to find information on teams. With Team Player, everything you need to know is just a few clicks away. It's simple, straightforward, and lets you find the best coach and team for your player without any of the usual headaches. And coaches, we all know how tough it can be to get your team noticed, but when you subscribe to one of Team Player's team plans, you instantly get access to set up an online team profile that allows you to reach more potential players and showcase what your team is all about. It's super easy and lets players and parents see why your team could be the right fit for them. And if you sign up using the promo code PITCH, you can try any team plan free for 1 month. So whether you're managing a team or searching for one, come on over to www.teamplayer.us. That is TEAMPLAYR.US. And come give Team Player a look. Family-owned Soccer Innovation is your go-to source for top quality equipment. Whether you're a player, a supportive family member, or a dedicated coach, they have everything you need to elevate your game. For players, their innovative equipment are designed to boost your skills and performance on the pitch. From their agility cones to their portable goals, they have you covered. And family members, they offer durable equipment that's built to last because we know your support is critical to your player. Coaches, trust me, they can provide the equipment you need to run effective training sessions and shape the next generation of soccer players. Visit Soccer Innovations at soccerinnovations.com to start elevating your game with them. And if you use the code PITCH, PITCH, you can receive up to 10% off your next order. Hello and welcome back to Chat by the Pitch. This is Ian Babcock, your host. This week I have Coach Tim Summerfield Part 2. I'm not going to say much, so let's start this chat and head to the pitch. Then my question to you in that first phase, because I feel like maybe I need to wrap my head around this more. In that first phase, training to train is how you described it in your post, to teach them to learn how to train. And then it's training to develop, and then it's training to win is how you described it in your post originally. Now, if you're training them to train, me being an adult, and the best way to describe it was someone said to me, and this is the fun thing is I get to talk to all these coaches, is that you have to learn to be a 5-year-old kid and play like a 5-year-old kid for that long. Now, I don't see the point of a 90-minute practice for a 6-year-old. I can see it for a U10 and up more longer because their attention span and physically playing the game is much better. But yeah, I'm still trying.
Yeah, especially if you've got two or three sessions a week with some people.
Right. And that's how I'm looking at this as these kids you don't want to feed them with a fire hose, but what age do you start teaching them? This is the role of the forwards. This is the role of a midfielder. And this is the role of
16.
16. So this is the big common issue here in the United States is players get pigeonholed at the age of 6 because of parents' drive. I want my kid to be a scorer.
Yeah.
And that's 99% of parents. It's not, I want my kid to be a center back. It is.
Yeah. But if we are teaching our kids what an actual centre back is, which is a goal scorer, we could go through the Premier League this weekend and make a long list of centre backs that scored. And I bet there's quite John Stones, Manchester City. There's one straight off the bat. I know he scored because I watched that game.
Right.
Yeah. But our centre backs in the US aren't scoring because they're told they can't move over the halfway line.
Yes.
So if we change that narrative, we'd have a different understanding and different value. Now, let me tell you what I do with my 2 independent teams that I've got. I'm not part of any club. They're just Tim's teams. And we play in a district league here in Utah. So we do at least 50% playing time for everybody. And that's rotated fairly no matter how good or how bad you are. So if this week your game time is a full game, you play the full game. If your game time's the first half or the second half, that's when you play. This is the position you'll play just in that game. You don't move positions in the game. And so this is how we play. This is how we played the game. Okay. So first off, I'm reducing anxiety because I let them know on the Monday where you're playing on the Saturday. So in training on the Monday and Wednesday, they know exactly what they're trying to work on, what they're focused on. Then each game, each week, they move to a different position. They move to a different playing time. We don't do substitutions every 5-6 minutes because I'm not trying to win a game. I'm not trying to be Pep Guardiola. We have no tactics that aren't based on the learning objectives or the principles of the game. Players are playing for a full half in one position. And the next week, they may play a full game if it's their rotation time. But my point is that they all play different positions every week. And I say, you're really strong at that position. And they love it. Oh, I like being on the wing this week. Can I be on the wing next week? No, not really, because I want you to develop, even if you're not going to be a fullback, and you might become a winger eventually. If you train in that fullback position, you'll know what to expect out of future fullbacks that you play with. You'll know what they need to do and how they need to react and where you should be. And you shouldn't be pigeonholing people into positions until you need to win games, which, according to England DNA, is 16 plus. You don't need to win games until you're 16. You shouldn't be training to win games till you're 16. So your coaching sessions should all be based around development and learning. Why are we trying to force our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade kids into college exams, soccer-wise? And that's what we're doing. That's what we're giving them, college information at grades 6, 7, whatever it is, and expecting them to be successful.
And that goes back to those 3 phases. And how do I describe it? Sorry about that. You have the 3 phases, and you talked about the 3 phases of a defensive player. It is deny. I only got deny written down, but
Restrict are three of the principles that we use of defend. There's more, but that's the
right. There's the 3 principles. I've heard that multiple times.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about that, what ages do you start bringing that type of terminology in? Is that in phase 2, or is that more of the phase 3, the pros phase, where they start learning
You can talk about the principles in the foundation phase, because all you're doing is basically talking about, it's not tactical. It's if they've got the ball, we don't run in and try and take it from them immediately because we're just trying to slow them down. But then we go into more detail when we get to the development phase. So we talk about how do we slow down? Well, we'll make sure we get a yard off them. We go as fast as we can, get a yard off them and stop and just jockey them to the side a bit. And then in the professional development phase, we then work that into how does that look as a team? So after you've done that, how do we get cover and balance involved? How do we make sure, all the other technical kind of aspects of the game? The principles of the game are simple. When we don't have the ball, we have to try and stop them scoring. And how do we do that? We delay the attack. We restrict the space, which then denies the goal scoring opportunities. And when we're on the attack, we need to create the space, use speed at play, because if they're trying to delay us, we've got to go faster and not delay, and then penetrate through their defense. Now, those sort of things like penetrate through the defense, you wouldn't use in the foundation phase, but you can still teach those principles, even if you're saying we have to restrict space for them when they've got the ball, and we need to create space when we've got the ball. And then your players are automatically knowing that we don't need to gather around the ball. We need to be in space. We need to spread out because we can create more opportunities. Yeah. And I don't think that kind of goes over the boundaries of the phases of development, because it is the principle. Like, you wouldn't say, oh, you can't tell them where the goal is. You can't tell them the principle of the game is to score a goal and not score a goal. And that's all the principles is. And I think the earlier they understand the principles of the game, which is actually the game, how it's played, the better it is for them, because at the moment, the game doesn't look like what it should do, even at high school for some here.
And this is where I get dumbfounded as a parent, because I think if you had an hour, 3-hour sessions that you sat down with parents and gone over the phases of the game, gone over the phases of development, and I think giving parents a better understanding of what they should be looking for. I think you said that you provide this already as a consulting service for clubs in the area. How do you recommend parents then to go, other than spending countless hours? Do you have, I'm asking because I'm intrigued right now, do you have this online where the parents could sign up and take a webinar with you, or is it just something that you do locally?
Yeah, I just do it locally at the minute, but that's a good idea. Maybe I will create an online service for parents. But I will say the biggest thing of what I teach parents is you're not a coach. So you don't need to know how to coach. You do need to know what to value in a coach, but you don't need to coach. You don't need to coach your kids. You should become a parent and less of a coach. So I talk about things like the car ride home, which is like massive, absolute massive. What should I say to little Johnny on the car ride home? The first thing you say is, did you enjoy that? In an upbeat voice, even if they got smashed. Even if they got smashed 13-0. Sorry. Yeah, even if they got smashed 14-0. Did you enjoy that? Well, yeah, that's what they'll say. Ah, what did you enjoy? And and because we are negative people as humans, they will copy learned behavior from adults and they'll start getting negative. I didn't like this and I didn't like that. No, what did you enjoy? What did you enjoy? I really like the way I got that pass and then played it out wide just that one time. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you want to go get some ice cream? What's your favorite? What shall we get? You change the subject. You stop talking about the game and you let them be kids. Because they've had it all week in training. They've had instruction before the game. They've had it at halftime and they've had it post game. They don't need another coaching session in the car on the way home. But yeah, so back to your answer, doing something like that is something for the future. For me, definitely try and change, because I want to change the culture. I want to help people to understand what to value. What should we value?
I think that's the thing. It's the American culture has always been, it's horrible here in Texas because we come from an American football mentality and it's win-win at all cost. It doesn't matter. We're going to win. We're going to stomp this team because everyone grew up with a American football culture. And Texas is proud of Texas and proud of American football. And what do we do in American football? We win.
Unless you're the Cowboys.
Unless you're the Cowboys, and that will get you in trouble here. But that's the thing. Even Jerry Jones, he's the greatest hype man I've ever heard in my life. We're going to go out there and win this season. He's been saying it for 25 years since the last time they won the Super Bowl. And that's what we have. We have a bunch of hype men saying we're going to go out there and stomp everyone and at all cost. And what are we doing as parents to saying, well, let's slow down. Where are we going to learn how to do a simple passing drill? When will our player learn how to correctly touch the ball with their foot? I love the analogy I heard. It's like kids need to go out back and kick the ball against the wall for a half hour. So they learn how, if I kick it with this part of my foot, this is how the ball's going to bounce off my foot. If I kick it in this spot, if I kick it on the little black needle spot, how's the ball doing a change direction if I hit that spot on a free kick? And we don't have that. And I think part of it is we are always on a go society here. Our kids can't go out down the street and play like when I grew up. I would leave my house at 5 years old and wouldn't return until 9 o'clock at night, sometimes 8 o'clock, because I didn't want to ride in the dark in the summer. And at 6 years old, 5, 6 years old, but I was free range. I lived in the country. I would go ride my bike a mile down the road to go play with the neighbors. We can't do that today. We can't, but telling the kids and having the kids go out back and just kick the ball against a wall or whatever it may be, or just kicking the ball back and forth wherever it may go. They don't spend the time or have the time to do it because parents are always wanting to be doing something productive, and kicking the ball doesn't seem productive sometimes.
But as adults, we can facilitate that. A club that I'm consulting with right now out here, I am helping them to create a development program within their club program, because they say the main problem is needing to fill a roster And some teams have got players that shouldn't be at that level playing on that team just because you need someone on the bench. Now, my whole theory is everybody that pays need to have at least 50% playing time. So what we're helping to create for them is a development program where all players from different teams who are not at the level as some of the other players, they get to play in a separate team that's not affiliated to a league. So they have a training session with a coach and they play in against each other or other teams from lower divisions or whatever in friendlies. So they're having this opportunity to get those touches on the ball without the pressure of being in a higher level than what they should be in. Parents can also create free play days, and clubs can. What you come in to play, what for? Just to play. Because as kids back in the day, that's how we learn, and that's going back to myself as a player. I ball against the wall every day, and it took years and years for it to click. But also, at break time at school, what were we all doing? We're playing football. And at lunchtime, what were we doing? Eating lunch? No, we weren't. We were playing football. And after school, until it was dinner time, when we knew if we don't get back now, we're going to be in trouble, we were playing football. And that was every day. Saturdays, what do we do? Down the park, playing football.
And I think that's the hard part here is everything has to be organized. Kids just don't show up to the parks like they used to and go play soccer or whatever it may be, or basketball or baseball. It is, okay, let's see what we have planned this weekend. They bring out the calendar on their smartphone. Oh, we can't do anything this week. We don't have time to squeeze it in. I feel, and you do have that structured free play, but it comes at a cost. Either you're going to go pay someone to allow your kid to go participate in I call it pickup games. And that's what they have. And you're paying for the coaches to be there to help facilitate and give some guidance along the way. But it's not a bunch of kids just getting together and duking it out when there's an argument about that's a foul, that's not a foul.
Yeah, but you can change that. Change that because it just takes a group of people to say, well, we have this field, and in Texas, you've got fields that you can use, most likely, unlike here in the winter, all year round, where you can probably just pitch up, even if you set 2 pop-up goals up at different ends. And the only facilitation that needs happening is to just make sure that they're safe and be there if there's any injury, anything like that.
Right.
They don't need any instruction. They don't need any coaching. Just come and play. What do you want to play? And I say sometimes I do this. I put some goals up and I leave a ball or a few balls. And when kids start arriving, I don't say anything because they start making their own game. Right, we're playing World Cup, but it's going to be 1 versus them 2 and they're making their own rules. They're now creating their own games. They're being creative and they're not being told, you there, get that bib on, you get that bib on. Right. Now, if parents got together and there was a time, this is what we're going to do, I bet you it would flourish. I
think it will. And the other half of the problem here in Texas is the fields are rented or you can't use them because X, Y, and Z. They aren't open to the public. It's at a public park. Why can't I go use this field? Now the city has locked all the goals together in the middle of the field because they don't want them going missing in the middle of the night, or they're missing the nets, and then you have to go chase the ball 50 yards beyond the net because the net's missing. And I always joke, why don't we just put chain link fence around the back of the goal so no one loses the ball and the fence, the netting doesn't deteriorate over time.
Yeah.
And then I was told, we can't do that because it's a liability because someone could climb up the back of that fence and climb on top of the goal and fall off. I'm like, it's a no-win situation. It's like, where are we going to get this development from? So going back to those 3 phases now, the first one, when do you actually implement the individual technical skills, like unfortunately dribbling around cones or learning to emphasize a shoulder feint or learning how to do a Matthews or a scissors or not the crazy helicopter Maradonas and things like that, because so few and far between players actually use those in a game. I tell my son, Messi has a phenomenal shoulder feint. He has a quick foot on moving the ball back and forth. That's all you need. He's the greatest player of all time. You don't see him running down the field every time he touches it and doing a Maradona, he just knows that where that ball is at his feet every given moment.
But
That's what you need.
that comes from the game, playing the game. But then having opportunities to, as a coach, do you understand when to do that or how to do that? Can you demonstrate? And a lot can't, so they don't do it. But you do that as part of your training. I wouldn't really do the foundation phase, but definitely youth development phase is starting to use 90% of the games played off the ball.
Right.
And that's actually being very generous, because it's around about 97%. No, I say 90% of the game is off the ball. So what is the game? It's about body position. It's about movement. How do we accelerate away? How can we get explosiveness? But during the game, going up to a player, hey, try dropping your shoulder, try making a fake, try. And that's all the point about being creative, the creativity of the game. But they don't do it here because coaches don't want their players to be creative, generally speaking. They want them to do as they're told.
Because that's what we've always been told to do.
I had training Saturday morning, and right next to me was a 6-year-old team playing in an indoor game with another 6-year-old team. The coach did not stop shouting and screaming. I told you to dribble. I told you this. I told you that. I did. And it was constant. And to the fact it was actually driving my players crazy, who we were just doing technical training, part of the technical training academy. And it's soul destroying. If you don't want, how can you get these kids to be creative, to make their own decisions, to do stuff that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, if you want them to do it only one specific way? I had another parent, oh, you need to speak to her. Why? Because she's happy just to sit on the bench. She said there's no drive. She doesn't want to come off the bench. And this goes, it's a really talented player. And I said to the mother, because when she's on the bench, no one's shouting at her, and that includes you. She's like, I never thought of it like that. I said, why come off the bench and make a mistake and get screamed at, when stay on the bench, you don't make any mistakes and you don't get screamed at? And that's the whole thing. Oh, we want our players to be creative. Oh, you're not doing that. You're not doing this. You don't know how to feint. You don't know how to do a Cruyff turn. Yeah, because you're not allowing them to practice it during the games. I say to players, where is the time to fail? And the ones that know me now, so they say, now. And this is during an actual competitive game. Now. Why? Because this is about learning, not about winning. There we go. So go out and fail. Go and try stuff. I don't care if we get smashed 14-0. I don't care.
When I was coaching, my son is very quick to say this. I go, when you lose, what do you do? Is there anything bad about losing? He goes, the only time there's something bad about losing is when you don't learn. And he goes, you lose, you learn. If you win, you don't learn. And it's something he's been ingrained in from his first club coach. It was part of one of the team philosophies. When we lose, we learn. And it's a great time to do it. It's like and it applied to not just actually losing the match, it's losing the ball, losing our temper. It was because you're talking 5 and 6 years old. It's like you learn how to control yourself and you learn how to do these processes. And I think being taught that at a very young age has taught him winning doesn't mean everything as long as I'm having fun. And I think he struggles sometimes with the fun part. It's because of the culture here. It's like you have to win. I tell him it's like league play is where you go figure out what you've learned in practice and if it actually works. I've always said, I always preach in league play, it should be 50% wins, 50% losses. Even if it's 60-40, 40-60, it keeps the kids motivated either way. And then in tournaments, when they play in tournaments, that's your chance to actually go and show what you have learned through training and games when you go play in a tournament. You go there to win. League play is to figure it out. Tournaments is to actually go win because you're paying a lot of money for a lot of quick games. And that's how I explain it to parents. I go, if your coach has any other philosophy, you might need to be reevaluating what's your priority with your player. And there's that social media post going around right now. And I'm trying to think, where would it fall into these 3 categories? They don't pay all this money. The short of it, we don't pay all this money for our kids to play these sports. We play it to teach life values. I'm like, we had a discussion about it, and it's an insensitive comment because youth sports are so expensive today. And to say that you're not playing to compete other than teach life lessons, at what age do you start teaching your kids to compete? Even
16.
in 16, right? This is what you're talking about. But I'm thinking it as the life lessons of it at 16. But you're competing every day when you wake up. When you are the UK, I feel like it's slightly different because you at 16, don't you guys leave school at 17 or 16 and you guys go on to university, correct? For your
No,
profession,
no. So at 16, we leave high school.
high school.
But at 16, then you go to college, which is basically your high school, 16 to 18.
Okay.
It's extra because at 16 in the UK, you can go get an apprenticeship, you can get a job, or you can continue with further education, higher education, which is 16
Gotcha.
to 18. And then at 18, you go to university. So we've got high school, but some of the high schools, they have the extra 2 years. So you'd stay in that high school and do your 2 years. But yeah, so then, and then at 18, you go to college. But the thing is, just going back to if we're playing in a tournament because we're playing, we need to win. Not if you're not 16, because the tournament is additional learning for your children in a game scenario in a short space of time. What does that do when we go away for a talk? We're learning about bonding. We're learning about being part of a team. We're having an experience about getting away. It should never, ever be about the winning, because as soon as you can't have development and winning in the same sphere. Because once it becomes about winning, you are making choices about how to win that game. And development goes out the window, because it's regardless of development, we need to win. So little Jimmy, you're terrible. I'm going to give you 2 minutes because you've turned up. We're going to play you on the right because you're strongest there, you at the back. And that's not what it's about in these phases. It needs to be, winning needs to come from great development. And you can still win at foundation phase. You keep score if you want to do it, or youth development phase, the same thing. But it needs to come from development. And we need to forget about winning, regardless of tournaments or whatever it is, until they hit that professional development phase when they're actually training to compete.
So I always say winning is the byproduct of true development. I don't care what age you're at. And that's why I feel like you caught me in my philosophy, and it's hard because I feel like tournaments is where you actually go see if things actually you have developed actually work out. If you rely on little Jimmy or little Susie to go play right back or left back or striker or wing or midfield at any age level, and they don't show up for a match and no one else can fill that hole, you throw it, like you said, you throw out the whole point of development. And I'm sitting here dumbstruck because it's something I have personally believed inside of me for a long time at any age group, because I get what you're saying, like winning can't be part of development.
There's nothing wrong with winning.
There's nothing wrong with winning.
Nothing wrong at all in winning. But as soon as that mindset changes, right now we're winning. But you said that I'm only 13 and I'm just still trying to develop. So why are you putting that pressure on? We're going to win. And you can't be half in, half out, because it doesn't work. We're using this tournament because we're going to play against different styles of play, different people. And it's about you learning to be around a different environment. But our objectives for the game are going to be the same for the week, for the curriculum that we put in place this week. The objectives are going to be not to score, or maybe but sometimes I have objectives score from the halfway line, because right. I just want them every now and then taking chances, popping shots off, even if it's going mal. Sometimes it'll be only score from inside the 6-yard box, because I want them to try and all press together up in that space. Now, whether I'm at a tournament or not, my philosophy and style doesn't change. I said to the high school boys, all I care about is winning. They're 16 years old. Well, you go to my other teams, they think that I just think it's about fun. They don't know how competitive Tim is. They don't understand that. But with the high school, I said, we are not losing this season.
No, I get the 16. Like you said it very well. I get the pro side. It's leading up to that. I think that's the harder side for people, me included, to fully grasp and fully understand. Because at the very young age, everything, your league rankings dictate what leagues you can go play in. You have, I'm going to say ECNL is the largest competitive elite league in the United States right now for all the big clubs.
You
And
can see something coming from me, can't you? You can see the cogs turning.
and
But
I
but
am
but but the leagues mean nothing. And
right.
that's what you need to understand. You've got the ECNL, E64, and you've got players playing in there that shouldn't be playing in there. You've got teams playing in there that shouldn't be playing in there. I went to watch an ECNL game because some of my players that train with me are ECNL players. And I was so excited because it was this higher level of grassroots football. And I come away so disappointed. The players couldn't string 3 or 4 passes together.
And that's the thing I get frustrated with. And then as a parent, you have all these leagues. And I had a coach, a friend of the family that's a coach, and he says, you don't leave your little bubble until you can wallop every single team, until you can go out there and beat them time and time again. It's not just every now and then someone gets a win. It's you're truly winning the area. Then go travel outside of your area and see if you're actually as good as you think you are. And that's when you need to be traveling halfway across the country to go play a match or a series of matches. I had a parent recently tell me it's like they're part of the ECNL and they literally flew to Denver, played 2 games in Denver, and flew back. And when they were in Denver, they just crushed those teams in the ECNL league. And he goes, it's not even worth going when we could do that same thing here. And as a parent, I get that we have the play to play model here, but is it truly developing the players to compete at the rest of the world?
But it depends on the coach. That's the problem. Is that does the coach know what a 5 to 11-year-old player should be learning? Do they know what a 12 to 16-year-old player should be learning? Are they objective-based, curriculum-based coaching? Most likely not. Why? Because they need to win. Why do they need to win? Because that's what parents value. My player is good if he's on a team that's winning, even if he's sat on the bench. No, definitely not. But that's what they value. Why do they value that? Because that's what everyone else values. And until someone comes along to change the culture, to educate people, and actually, you've got to treat soccer and any sport and anything like you do with education. Studies have said that a child who has a positive relationship with a parent performs 60% better in school, the arts, in music, in sport. So we do need to educate the parents if we want to increase ability levels by 60% just by having their positive buy-in. Now, obviously, it goes backwards when there's a negative buy-in from the parent, then it's a decrease in ability level. But it's all driven by the parent. Why? Because it's the parent that's in charge of the player and in charge of the money. So coaches won't necessarily change because they are pressured by the parents to have a result on a Saturday, not on a Monday and Wednesday night in training. They don't look at that. They don't even ask the question. They don't understand the game, so they can't see what a good pass is, what a bad pass is. They can't see what dribbling through 5 people and then losing the ball is a negative thing. They just think it looks brilliant because they're not educated. They don't know what to look for. And that's why we need to change what everybody values, because once the parents value it, the coaches will have to value it. Otherwise, little Jimmy, little Johnny aren't going to go play for that team.
But I think that goes back to understanding the 3 phases of development and having parents understand them. And I think this is where I think that applies to I'm thinking, because we talked a lot about schooling and how school applies. You can't go teach I look at my daughter, she's 6. She goes, give me a math problem. And it's all multiplication, addition, and subtraction. You can't teach them multiplication and division until they learn and understand addition. And I think it is funny that we think our players need to be, how do I describe it? A bicycle kicking at 6 years old when they can't even dribble to the box. There's some phenomenal little 6-year-old players that can probably dribble circles around some 12, 14, even 16-year-old players. But I think too many parents see little Johnny, little Susie as, I'm guilty of this with my own son. My daughter, I think she's a great soccer player, but I don't know where she's going to be at because she's only 6. My son's 10, and I think he's a great soccer player for his age. Is there kids better than him? Yes. Is there kids worse than him? Yes. It's just a matter of what is important to us as parents.
But it doesn't matter, does it, though, when you think
No.
about it? If some people are better or worse at 10 years old, it just matters what they learn. Same in school. You have people in grades or sets. In England, it's called set 1, 2, and 3. And they get the learning, even with their age, that's dependent on their ability. And can they move up and down? Yes, they can. But what matters is that they're learning, because it's not the end game. It's not the end result. And that's what we need to educate people is at 6 to 16, 6 to 15 is not the end result. That's the learning that they need to do. They need to get from grade 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and it's the same with sport.
I think we skip too many levels. I have seen, as a parent, I'll say that we haven't skipped multiple levels, but we have invested a lot into his development because this is what he loves. I remember from the very first thing we asked him was like, what do you want to do when you're a grown up? He goes, I want to go play in Europe. It's not even play in America. I want to go play soccer in Europe. And so we asked him, like, how do you have to get there? And he would actually sat there and told us how he would have to learn to play soccer. And I just find it fascinating. And you're hitting on so many good points here. And I don't know where to go because he said we could talk for hours on this. And oh my gosh.
The thing about me is I'm not just a coach. So my college degree is in sport and recreation development. How do people and communities develop through sport? So I have that added thing of it. I'm also a coach educator and a coach, and very passionate and knowledgeable about the game. But I spend time studying. I'm also a level 2 licensed scout, professional scout. So with talent identification, I'm very knowledgeable in that. And there are so many conversations that can be had to better the culture. But I think it all starts with these values. What should we value? We shouldn't value coaches who are shouting and screaming. We shouldn't value coaches who are constantly active during games. We shouldn't value coaches who don't have a curriculum. Coaches who reactively coach against proactively coach will not have the end result for your players that you need. And this is the ones that on a Saturday, our shots were going wide. We didn't even get one shot on target. So all week we're doing shooting. And then the next game, our passes so now we're doing passing. And they just chase the tail. It's called reactive coaching, where proactive coaching is curriculum based. Do you think the teachers stay on one topic for weeks? No, they deliver that topic that day, and the next day they move on, and then they revisit. Then they move on, revisit. Why? Because that's how children learn. So why aren't we coaching? And coaching isn't telling people what to do. Coaching, if you say, he was coaching me on or whatever, you actually think about helping somebody get from A to B to C to D, not telling them how to get there, helping them to get there, helping them to arrive there on their own. And we need to let people know that's what we should value then. Does a coach help my player through guided discovery, through open questions, get from A to B? If they don't, but a good coach is the one that knows how to pick all the best players in the state and they win every tournament going. No, that's just somebody who just picks players. Then I doubt those kids are getting any coaching, any learning. They beat everybody just because they're together with the best players.
And as soon as that best player is no longer performing or someone better comes along, guess what? Whoever's at the bottom rung is out the door because it's all about cherry picking the best players. And
exactly. And they hit a ceiling. So they're a best player here, but they can't go above that because they're not being taught how to go above that. My teams, we get beat nearly every week because I'm not trying to win a game. I'm trying to teach them how to play. And I say to them, get beat every week now for the next 4 years, and then you'll become a player that beats every week because you're getting that education. And there is a time for that focus at 16 plus.
I think that's going to be the hardest pill for parents here to swallow, because you do travel. If you want to be, if these kids are wanting to go off to college or go play at a higher level, you're being fed the line. You need to go play in this league or play in this tournament or this showcase so your player can be seen. And as a parent, it's not all the kids that are the best players in the country will be able to go play in those showcases or go play in those leagues, because it's $15,000 a year for that player just to travel to go to all the matches for the season. It doesn't even include the family following them. It's just for the player to play, and people don't understand that because.
But do you think the
see
college coaches care where the players played?
No, and that's the funny thing.
The college coaches care if the player can play, and not just play. Can you shine?
And this is where the notion that I have started to learn is trying to teach kids and parents to better educate them on how to be recognized and how to be seen. And there are some great programs out there. They do cost some money, but it's still cheaper than paying $15,000 a year to go have your player go play for a club that you're playing for. Right now, there's the whole, what is it called? There's a national team women's player that never played on a club team. And now she's playing on the women's national team here in the United States. And it's sending all these clubs in a tizzy because, well, our whole model is based on having these players seen at this national level. And here is someone that just was good at recruiting themselves and did it all themselves.
But that's also why the national level needs to change. So in England right now, they've just created a new program for women where if you think there's a talented girl, they have a page you can go to and you can put their details in, and then they'll be contacted that way. So this is where the whole thing, if obviously we're talking about player development, which is about becoming a pro, but you need to be teaching them things that'll help them to get there if they have the opportunity. But the whole system needs to change from top down.
But it goes back to the very most important thing you said: parent educated. Parents drive it all. We are the ones that are at the steering wheel, or I would say the gas pedal, not even the steering wheel. We're at the gas pedal saying, "This is how fast we're going. I don't care how we get there. We're just going to get there fast." And we're skipping all the steps along the way. I'm going to ask my favorite question and wrap this up here with you. Since you are a player and you're a coach, so who has been your greatest influence as a player, and who has been your greatest influence as a coach for you?
I think the greatest influence as a player, there's not one player. And I think that's coming from the English side of things. We don't support players. We're very tribal and we support club. So for me as a player, I've never looked at other players and think, oh, I want to be like that. But as a coach, Sir Alex Ferguson, because he is and this is from a professional development phase, obviously, but he is the most successful club coach in the history of life in this game, what he did and what he's achieved. But other than that, it's a difficult one because I don't really think like that. Tim doesn't think about that. And
I'm not saying actual player. I'm saying influence you as a player. Your parents, it could be a coach to help you get over a certain hurdle.
I never had any of that. That's the thing. I'm self-made, self-taught. I never had my mum and dad have seen me play once when I played at Goodison Park for Everton in a charity game. And Stoke City, I played for them as well. My dad came. They've never seen me play. It's not a thing it wasn't a thing in my family. Play for school. No, that's why I say people here, you're lucky. You got people turning up that aren't even that related to you. It's like the fifth aunt twice removed. They're coming to see your kid play. I didn't have that. It was just a love of the game. My uncle used to come and watch me quite a bit, but that was it as a kid. So I come from a different environment, different upbringing. There was no money for training. I wasn't in a club. There was none of that. So yeah, that's why it's really difficult for me. Everything I've got is just from my love. I've always had a love and a passion for the game. My friends are back home, they call me Mr. Football because I'm just absolutely 100% mad for when my wife's not around, I say football, then my wife. When she's away, I say there's my wife and then football. And that's what it is. Here in my office during the week, as soon as 12:45 comes, Utah time, for the evening matches, my TV's on, I'm watching the Premier League. I get up at 5:30 on Saturday mornings, I watch the Premier. I'm just mad for the game, which then helps me to become a bit more mad for and passionate about helping the young uns who don't have a choice. Parents have a choice. I don't care about parents. The only reason I'm so active with them is because it is a knock-on effect and it affects the players. That's who I want to affect, a better experience for the players. So anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying no one loved me when I was growing up. No, that's not true.
Hey everyone, I hope you all have enjoyed this week's episode of Chat by the Pitch. The part 2 of this, him talking about everything now, wrapping this all up. It's amazing how much we as parents don't understand if we don't have a soccer background. We're starting to get to generations now where they have one generation of soccer or 2 generations of soccer in the family. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of understanding child development, player development, and how it all combines into one, and how we have to pay attention to how we are trying to build up these players and build them to be stronger, smarter, and better than they were the day before. And sometimes that is understanding how training is designed and how they need to build those foundations to go to the next level. And when they finally get to the third phase of play, or third phase of training, not even play, third phase of training, they need to learn how to win and what that means. But you can't learn how to win if the other 2 training phases aren't done correctly. You'll have incomplete players. And this is why, I'll say it, we have so many players that go overseas to go play and become more successful because they've had somewhat of a great foundation built. But to finish their training, they have to go overseas. And if we could change the culture here in the United States to be more about player development, player knowledge, player training correctly, I think our football world will be so much better. The soccer community will be so much stronger.